What's going on, guys? So, a question I get asked quite often is, what's changed from a construction perspective in the last 5 years of RV manufacturing? Let's talk about that. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, so, this is our Brookstone. We've had this now for 3 years. And, a lot of people want to know, has anything from a construction or materials perspective changed really in the last 5 years? And the answer is kind of a mixed bag. So, the reality is, over the last 3 years, a lot of changes have taken place in the industry, especially because of COVID. But some good things have happened, like more and more manufacturers are using Azdel for their outside walls, and a lot of them are now using it for the outside and inside walls. So Coachman's a good example of that. They use Azdel on the outside, and they've been using it for a long time, pretty much across all of their brands. But over the last 3 years, you start to see them transition from using it just on the outside to also using it on the inside of the wall as well. And by doing it that way, instead of using the typical Luan backer on the inside, you pretty much move to a completely composite sidewall now. So you have Azdel aluminum, or you have your fiberglass Azdel aluminum framing with Azdel on the inside. And again, that pretty much gives you a completely composite wall for RV manufacturers who do it that way. But the reality is there hasn't been a lot of changes in terms of sidewall construction materials that are used. Again, more manufacturers are using Azdel, but Azdel's certainly been a material that's been around for, at least 5 years. And the interesting thing here is as more companies have adopted using it, mainly because of the Luan shortage coming out of Asia during COVID, you're seeing more manufacturers using it in different areas, interesting areas. More back caps on RVs are now Azdel as opposed to Luan, where the sidewalls typically would be your Azdel. So Azdel is not new. It's been used in the industry for probably the last 5 to 7 years or more, but it's definitely becoming more prolific in RV manufacturing today. So again, you're seeing more and more RVs that use Azdel for their sidewall construction. On fifth wheels, in terms of pin box technology, the Goose Box has been around for a while now. This is the 3rd generation of it, but there haven't been a lot of changes over the last 5 years in terms of pin box for fifth wheels. You're seeing some modifications or some evolutionary changes, but nothing that's truly significant. Most of them are pretty much just an improvement over the previous model, but even those previous models have been around for, nearly 5 to 7 plus years. So from a pin box perspective, fifth wheel wise, no, you're not seeing a heck of a lot of innovation over the last several years, except from a few companies like Gen Y. Reese has done improvements to their Goose Box and things like that. But a lot of people would say those are just evolutionary changes, not necessarily like revolutionary changes, if that makes sense. There really haven't been any major changes to leveling systems, besides the fact that more systems now include like a Bluetooth connectivity so you can control it with your phone. But the Ground Control 3.0 has been around for, at least 4 years now, 5 years. The Level Up hydraulic system's also been around for quite a while. So again, no major changes there. Frames, not a heck of a lot of frame changes either. Lippert still produces the vast majority. You're seeing BAL and a few other manufacturers kind of trying to jump in there to steal some market share. But for the most part, frames haven't changed. What Lippert has done is they've improved a few things. So on many of your newer fifth wheels, you're going to see that little angled reinforcement bracket come standard almost across the board. So almost all fifth wheel frames now have that angled reinforcement piece, because that was kind of a higher failure area. They recognized that and they realized, putting a couple pieces of steel in there probably doesn't cost that much, and it alleviates a lot of headaches that potentially can happen down the road. From a suspension perspective, again, same suspension system that, well, this suspension's kind of new. This one debuted about 4 years ago, starting with Keystone, and then brands like Coachman and other brands started picking up on it as they realized how good of a suspension it was. But your brands from like Moride, the Cree 3000, the 4000, some of the other systems, they've been out for quite a while. They've gone through a few little evolutionary changes in the last 5 years, but nothing like huge, nothing worth, like saying I need to switch from that to this new one because there's been these big changes. Now, I know Moride has introduced a few newer models that you can put as an upgrade to your suspension, but again, more evolutionary, not revolutionary in terms of changes. But frames, most of this stuff stayed the same. The big one is the fact that Lippert is now putting that angle bracing on most of their frames. Not all of them, but the vast majority now, if you look at RV dealership lots, you're gonna see are gonna have that angled piece right there, which is a great piece to add because it costs so little, yet does so much. Or I guess prevents bad things from happening in a big way. As far as greasable wet bolts, shackle straps, all that stuff's been available for quite a while. That's nothing new, nothing groundbreaking. It's always a good upgrade to have heavy duty shackle straps, greasable wet bolts, stuff that's very easy to service to keep your suspension and running gear working over, you know, longer distances and over various terrains. But yeah, nothing crazy going on here. So if you have an RV that's 5 years old, there aren't going to be huge improvements in terms of suspension that were available then versus now. Now, whether or not you upgrade to something that was available then that you didn't have at the time, that's still up to you. But any type of a good suspension upgrade is a good call for an RV. I'm going to say probably one of the biggest changes that's taken place in the last 5 years is the move to this type of step, whether it's the solid step from LCI or whether it's the step above from MORryde. It's a really, really great step system. You do have to understand the challenges if you move to a step system like this, such as the fact that it swings out rather far whenever you're deploying them. So if you're in a truck stop and you're squeezed in between trucks, you may not be able to deploy your steps until you pull the RV out. So a lot of the RVs that were produced 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago still had the standard steel fold-out steps or maybe an aluminum version of it. And you started seeing a lot more of these steps appear over the last 5 years than ever came in the RVs. And that's really good. And you're seeing subtle improvements as well. Like the big improvement with MORryde was the fact that they put an assist strut on the inside, which made the thing like zero gravity, super easy to lift up and deploy. The big improvement from Lippert with the solid step was making the step extra wide by making these side rails much thinner. So instead of a side rail protruding in 1.5 inches, the side rail is only maybe less than 1/2 inch thick, and it's engineered now so it supports the same amount of weight, but it gives you a step platform that's significantly wider than it was in the past. But again, great technology, great evolution. This has definitely been something that's evolved in the last 3 years because this was actually introduced on our Brookstone. So really cool product from Lippert, and the MORryde version of this, they're both awesome products. Something else that is pretty dang extraordinary to see is you're starting to see more systems come wired with side view cameras and rear view cameras, typically the Furrion system, than you've ever seen in the past. Typically you'd have to find a surround camera system and then kind of change everything out to put it on. But now you're seeing more and more RVs that just come equipped with the side prep and the rear prep. Most of all RVs now come equipped with the rear prep, but a lot of them now are coming with the side prep. You've also seen the vast majority of RVs in the last 5 years switch to LED lights versus incandescent bulbs. Now, this is a big change because you essentially can have every light in your RV an LED, pulling less power than maybe 2 lights that traditionally were incandescent. That's pretty awesome. A lot of bulbs that are 1/2 watt or less are being used in RVs, whereas in the past, you know, a side bulb like this might be like a 7.5 to a 20 watt bulb. So definitely huge improvements from a lighting perspective, which equate to far less draws on your power system. So if you have a battery, if you're on shore power, if you're running 30 amp and that's it, your lights actually used to use quite a bit of power. But now it's just not the case. Everything's pretty much LED on 90% of RVs sold, and LEDs draw such little current. The best way to equate it is like 2 or 3 lights in the past equated to the same amount of power as every light in your RV uses now. So if you have an older RV and you want to upgrade, that's probably the biggest single upgrade you can make on your RV from an energy management perspective, because it's going to give you the single biggest reward for that upgrade. Far less power pulling off of your batteries, much longer life bulbs, much cooler. They don't add to the heat inside of your RV like incandescent bulbs do. Now, from a technology perspective, this is the type of panel that you've seen in RVs for, you know, the past 10 years plus. And you've started to see a migration towards touchscreen panels because you can control things remotely. You have more access to stuff from applications and things like that. Some manufacturers would say a system like this is actually an improvement over this system because it's less likely that the system will fail. So that's really cool as well. But yeah, technology-wise, you're still seeing a lot of RVs come with this type of system. The improvement here is basically more tied to seeing everything from a screen, the modernization of it, as well as the ability to control it remotely. But if you have a system that's 5 years or more older, this is probably still what you're seeing. And a lot of companies like Alliance are going to this type of system solely because, again, lower chance of some type of an electrical problem impacting your ability to pull in slides and stuff like that. Now, from a bathroom restroom perspective, you're seeing a lot of modernization, as are with interior colors and tones. That's not to say that you're not still seeing the same stuff that was out there 5+ years ago. There's a lot of really plain showers that you're still seeing in RVs. There's a lot of plastic toilets you're still seeing, but you're definitely seeing more and more porcelain toilets, and you're seeing more and more kind of custom residential style wrapped showers, which is really nice. You're also seeing tones change quite a bit. A lot of RV manufacturers have switched to lighter, more modern tones. But in terms of construction, it's still pretty much the same construction. They're using the same hinges. A lot of times it's the same pulls even. They're just modernizing it to kind of meet the newer color tones and ideas that people are looking for. But sometimes it's kind of I guess you could consider it a downgrade in some senses, because like the cabinetry that you see here, you see very residential, edging and things like this. And that, of course, is still available all across different RV manufacturers. But with a lot of the trends going more contemporary, you're starting to see more things that are just squared off. It's less edge trimming, less routing, less, intricate detail to cabinetry like you saw 5+ years ago. And you're just seeing more like squared off cabinetry. And lighter tones, you're more cream colors and white colors, or contrasting tones where this cabinet here might be dark brown, but then the cabinet right beside it might be like white, or it might have kind of that burnt dark look to some of the outlines. And that is definitely a newer trend. That really has taken off in the last 3 years, and you didn't see it much before then. Everything was kind of this light brown color, dark brown color, and that was really it. You didn't really have any other choice. Light brown or dark brown were your two choices. And now you're seeing a whole gamut of different colors that really come from the residential sector. Okay, so a big one, and we have to move the exterior to see it, and you can kind of see the edge right here, is the introduction of solar on RVs. Just about every brand now has a solar package option or comes with some amount of solar standard. And the reason for that is because it's gotten a lot less expensive, but it's also been able to maintain things like the house battery whenever your RV's in storage. And if you have leveling systems, other computer-controlled things, you really want to make sure your voltage of your house battery doesn't drop to a level to where it clears out memory or causes things to decalibrate. So you're seeing more and more solar as kind of a base solar package, and then the ability to expand to a much larger solar package. You've always pretty much for the last 5 to 10 years had the ability to plug in a solar panel to the front to trickle charge your batteries. But more and more solar panels are appearing on RVs, anywhere from 80 watts all the way up to 400 to 500 to 600 watt systems already built in on RVs. And then finally, from a roofing technology perspective, all the old technologies are still there, but one thing that you're seeing more and more often now are newer technologies like PVC. But really what they've done is they've just improved all of these roof membranes in such a way that they don't do a lot of the negative things that they used to do in the past, like stain the side of your RV black or start really discoloring over time. All of the different materials, regardless of what it is, they all have a little different characteristic and attribute, but for the most part, they've all improved so much, and you really don't have to worry about all of those negative things you dealt with in the past. Tearing them, things like that, are always still an issue, but believe it or not, they've actually gotten stronger, but at the same time, they hold up really well to the sun, as long as you do basic maintenance on your roof to keep it clean and maintained. Sidewall slide out technology, not a lot has changed. Most of the systems that were available 5 to 10+ years ago are still available today. Most of the benefits of them still exist today, such as a rack and pinion style or a through frame style carries the most weight. So you tend to see those in areas where there's going to be a lot of weight. You tend to see more cable driven systems on slides that are lighter weight, wardrobe slides, bedroom slides, and you see a lot of Schwintek slide systems there as well. Manufacturers have one reason or another to use these different mechanisms. Oftentimes it's to save weight, sometimes it's to save cost, sometimes it's to save mass. And any way you slice it, the technology hasn't changed a lot, and I'm still the biggest fan of through frame because it holds the most weight. And then finally, tires are definitely an area where you can say a lot of improvements have happened ever since really Goodyear took the big step of making the Endurance tire, which is a US manufactured tire. Not to say it's perfect, not to say people don't still experience blowouts with it, but they've definitely come a long way. And I think more and more larger RVs are being equipped with like G-rated tires, which definitely can handle more weight than some of the F-rated tires they used to put on them in the past. And I'd like to think that my channel helped with some of these improvements because we screamed loud about it. You guys screamed loud about it that you wanted a better tire, and then lo and behold, a better tire comes out. You have that, plus you have the fact that Lionshead, who distributes the vast majority of tires now, they're actually offering crazy warranties on their tires, which never existed in the past. And it's more of like a peace of mind thing. Does it mean the tire's never going to fail? No, but does it mean you're going to get support if your tire does fail? And that's really what it comes down to. So there you go. You know, the industry has come a long way. In the last 1 to 5 years, they've done some really nice innovative changes. You know, ASDEL, again, being used more prominently through the RV. Solar's probably been the single biggest change to the industry, that you get RVs equipped with a lot more solar, or just solar period. Some electronic upgrades, a few minor suspensions, some significant frame upgrades that impact, you know, the longevity of your RV when being towed, some minor pin box stuff. But for the most part, if you have an RV that's 5 to 10 years old, and you're wondering if you should upgrade to a newer one simply for the new interior color or the mechanical changes that have taken place to the RV, you know, if you can modify yours and you can upgrade yours and customize yours with some of the colors and the tones that make it feel more modern, it might be worth doing and saving the money. I mean, it's just something to consider. Plus, you may have a unit that was actually built during the best time RVs were being built, and you may have worked all the bugs out of it, and you have a super reliable RV. And if you move to something different, who's to know if it's going to be as good as the RV you have? Not saying not to upgrade, but just understand from a engineering, mechanical, you know, manufacturing perspective, things have changed, but they haven't changed, you know, in a groundbreaking way. Everything's kind of been evolutionary, not revolutionary. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again very soon.